Hello everyone, my name is Chuck of Series Capade's Place playing State of Survival. This is a recording of our last Reservoir Raid last weekend. I usually record short snippets of the raid, but this time I managed to film the entire thing, and I do this mainly for educational purposes, just to see whether we are improving with every raid. Right now it is a setup phase and we're starting to see the players trickle in. The enemy has a bunch of high plasma level players, while on our end I'm the sole plasma 5. We have a plasma 3, I think, a 2, and the rest are mostly 1s. There's more players on our side, but low levels. Most of our players are free to play, only a few of us that are actually paying, which means that we tend to get matched with older states where the players have a lot more troops than us, usually in the millions, but with slightly lower stats and gears than mine. They have an advantage with Generation 5 heroes, which means an extra 100% attack and defense, but that won't stop us. I usually take the first few minutes to go over the plan, and our plan mainly is to recon, to gather the stats of the enemies just to make sure that my stats are higher than theirs. Because our main strategy is just to do long distance rallies. So I've asked everyone to spread out, hit whoever is in the building just to see their stats. Hopefully we manage to hit some of their higher level players. Basically what I do is to compare their stats against mine, and hopefully I have a slight edge. In this specific Reservoir Raid, I went with full eco talents. I normally go with war, but the goal here is to be strong enough that I am able to kick them out with a single rally. Based on the reports that I'm seeing so far, it seems like my stats are a bit higher than theirs despite being on eco. So I'm going to stick to eco. This helps me with the healing process because the healing rate is much higher than if you went with war. Now at this point I think we are ready to start our counter attack, and I am starting to set up my rallies. I've got most of my team in the safe zone, particularly those who do not have enough troops to fill out several marches. It seems that Yuna at the processing plant is being targeted by a high-level rally, so I am sending one of my marches there just to provide a boost, and then I go back to searching possible targets for my long-distance rallies. Now I am mostly going for the high-value buildings. These are the treatment centers and the processing plants. But every raid, my goal is to hold the dev compound and the munitions factory if available, because I could use every bit of buff or debuff that I could get. But since they have multiple players with golden gear, this places us at a slight disadvantage because I would be spreading myself too thin, especially with the limited amount of heroes that I have. Our state only has the 4th generation unlocked, while theirs have the 5th generation. So on average, their rallies would be stronger than ours. So I have to make everything count. High value targets it is. At this point of the game, our strategy is to take advantage of our higher player numbers and allow the enemy to spread out, to occupy various buildings, divide and conquer, and basically whittle down their troops. In order for our long-range rallies to assemble faster, I decided to hunker down near the water treatment center near our spawn point. That way, those who are left in the spawn point in the safe zone are able to join my rallies faster. I usually go for dev compound when those set of buildings unlock, but this time around I asked for someone else to take point because I would be focusing on the big ticket buildings with my long range rallies. As of this moment, I am holding around 2 buildings and I have 3 marches marching towards 3 other buildings. It's mainly a shot in the dark. I'm not sure which heroes or which buildings are occupied by their stronger players. But remember, this part of the Reservoir Raid for me is mainly about scouting their troops, scouting their stats, and seeing whether there's someone that I would be having difficulty with. So my march is about to land, and unfortunately it was a defeat. A quick scan of the stats show that I should be changing heroes. I should use my main ones because I only used my second set, my B team. Again, they have Generation 5 heroes, which we do not yet, which means potentially around 100% difference in attack and defense. So if I switch from my Generation 3 heroes to my Generation 4, then I would be gaining around 100%, which should be just enough to counteract their stats. By this time, I was noticing that my hospital was starting to fill up, so I had to recover some of my infantry, and it turns out that some of my rallies were failing, some of my defenses were being overcome, that I had to check whether people were bringing the right troops to my rallies. So from here, I requested that only T10 or better would join my rally that are set to attack enemy buildings, but otherwise any troops can be sent to garrison or to reinforce the garrison. We've had enough battle reports by now for me to know that we have a slight edge in terms of maximum stats. My stats are better than the enemy stats, especially if it's my primary heroes. And because of that, I thought it was about time to start our next phase, or the next phase of our plan, which is to retake all of the buildings. And in order to do that, I had to make sure to consolidate my armies and to properly allocate my marches, making sure that they are holding key buildings, or at least the higher priority buildings. I had to pull out of some of them, which means that I had to count on my teammates to hold some of the buildings for as long as possible, like this water treatment center. I was thinking that by parking my settlement right next to it, no one would actually relo close to it and try to grab it from us. There's still a few more marches that I could reclaim, which I am doing about now, because we're finally going to hit the central reservoir. And now I go to my reports to check which players are holding the central, because I needed to know if I could get away with using my B team, my B list of heroes. And I set a rally asking only T10 or higher to join, because I needed every strength that I could get. As far as I know, their strongest rally leader is J01, and he is currently pinned inside Water Treatment Center 1, which we just took successfully, so hopefully he doesn't send his A list of heroes anywhere else. My strategy is generally to keep him occupied with my A team, so I keep going for the same treatment center that he keeps going for. He's probably assigned to that building, I don't know, but yeah. Currently, the dev compound is a problem for us. It is one of the key buildings that we need to take, but one of their stronger players is currently camping the dev compound, and I need to protect my players who are assigned to the dev compound. So I asked them to fall back, and I tried to clear up a march so I could rally the dev compound. I quickly check the processing plant to see if it's full before I send my troops back, because it would be a shame to lose it. So I've got 4 marches occupying different buildings, and I look around to get my bearings again just to see where everyone is. I also send a solo attack into the central reservoir just in case we manage to take the building. It felt like a good idea at the time. Anyway, Jay is back to doing rallies, and I'm hoping it's a treatment center again. I really need him to be focused on that building. Meanwhile, our central rally arrived and lost, and it seems that we didn't have enough troops in the rally. The rally wasn't full. And there goes my solo attack. Forgot to recall it, so now I know it was a bad idea. I had to spend the next few minutes just healing my troops, focusing on healing while the enemy is building up their rallies. So the plan now is to try and take the central reservoir, but I still had to wait for my rallies to come back. So here I'm reminding my lower level players to focus on gathering. I also noticed they sent an infective wave over to the treatment center. I was contemplating whether to evade it, but I decided to stay and take it, because ultimately the goal here is to keep Jay pinned in that building. So I just launched another rally to the central reservoir, and hopefully this time we fill it up. And while waiting for that, I had to catch up on my healing. I also had to make sure that the joiners would arrive in my rally in time. I had to use my own speed ups for that. And as Danny has pointed out in the chat, it seems that we are gaining ground this time. We're closing the gap, and I would like to credit this to all of the water gatherers currently outside. I was contemplating taking the munitions factory, but I'm not sure if I could spare the resources for that. We still needed to make sure we had control over the big ticket buildings. I do a bit of healing here and there while I try to figure out what's their next course of action. They have a few rallies about to arrive, so I wait for that. And as expected, we lose the treatment center due to the debuff from the infected wave. But I'm going to go back for it. As I said, my main goal here is to keep Jay occupied and stuck in the treatment center. I don't want him anywhere else. At this point of the game, we are finally turning the tide and we have the lead. Just a few thousands, but it's starting to gain by the minute. So I check on the status of various rallies and buildings just to see if they are full. And finally our rally to the central reservoir hit and is successful, so we are going to try and maintain that for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, I check on the rally towards the treatment center. It appears that there are a few people who might not make the march time, so I had to accelerate them. Now normally I would do 5-minute rallies, but I wanted to keep the enemies on their toes by giving them so little time to think and plan. So I tend to stick to 2 minutes rallies if I can, but 3 minutes might probably be the sweet spot for us. So everything's still marching and I take the time to do a bit of healing. And I'm just seeing how things develop from here. So I'm chatting around for a bit while waiting for the enemy to set their rallies, because I want to know what I would be focusing on next. And it appears that they have started doing the rallies again, and they're targeting Enchantress over at our treatment plant. We now have full control over the central, so we're hoping to hold it for the rest of the game. This would give us a large boost in terms of water rate. And now that we have central, my next goal is to take the dev compound. I set a 3-minute rally just so my troops, my fellows, could join. I announced the rally to the team, letting them know that I do not have my best troops in there, my best troops and heroes, so make sure they send their best troops. But I feel that the dev compound defense isn't full, or at least isn't strong enough, and we might be able to take it with what we have, as long as we make sure that our rally is full. And in between rallies, I make sure to keep healing just to ensure that I have a steady stream of infantry coming back. And anytime now, we would be hitting the treatment center. And it's a success, which means that we would be holding Jay here for another cycle again, hopefully keeping him away from the central reservoir. So I tell them to maintain momentum, because right now it seems like we are on an uptick in terms of water gathering rate. Here's Jay again with another rally towards the water treatment center as planned. So again, my goal is to keep him occupied with the treatment center and not try to go for other buildings. We lost a processing plant, the bottom left one. It appears that Jay is in charge of the bottom left quadrant. Again, this is good. At least we know we are containing him to one part of the map. We lost both the water treatment and water processing plants, so all I have to do is to send back to that buildings. Unfortunately, this 2-hit combo means I have a lot of casualties, so I need to heal back a lot of troops now. I am using a lot of my infantry, but it looks like my ranged troops are getting a beating as well. So I have to recover both of those. And we have control of the dev compound now. At the very least, it means that we are no longer getting debuffs on our defense. I'm setting another rally onto the water treatment center 1, and hopefully by then the dev compound would be ready, so I could send a wave before the rally arrives. I can see that Lala is setting a rally against the dev compound. Hopefully our reinforcements arrive and fill up the dev compound before the rally hits. Right now everything is in motion. Some rallies are forming, some are marching, some are going back, so I take the chance to look around and scout and see where everything is at the moment. By now we think we have a comfortable lead, so I now adjust my rally times to be 3 minutes instead of just 2 minutes. This would give us a bit of more time to heal, and at the same time, just to drag things along for the enemy. So now that the dev compound is ready, I send the wave towards the water treatment center 1 where Jay is. Hopefully this would weaken them a bit before my rally hits. Again, I have a look around to reorient myself just to see where everything is, and it looks like they are not going for the central reservoir. I might have to refocus my efforts on other buildings. Now Jay launched a rally against me, and at this point I knew I wasn't holding the treatment center 1, which made me wonder if he's going for central. I think they have figured out my strategy by now, so maybe it's now a game of cat and mouse. I have to figure out where Jay would be sending his strongest set of heroes, and I have to meet him there, wherever that is. He probably knows by now that he should try and spread me out thin, that way I would not be as effective as I was before. The rally against the dev compound has just finished rallying, is now marching, and I'm waiting to see what happens. It appears that Lala's stats isn't high enough to overcome mine, which is good, and their rally wasn't full, which is also good. So I don't have to worry about the dev compound anytime soon, as long as we keep it full. Now I'm going around the buildings looking for Jay. I'm not sure where he is sending his strongest heroes, and it didn't occur to me to check the rallies, the ongoing rallies, because apparently he was sending a rally towards me, towards my settlement, and I do not have any of my strong heroes at home. Everything is outside, so this might be a problem. I tried to get people to reinforce my settlement, but I am not confident that this will hold, especially if it's Jay sending his strongest rally. But I'm going to take it and put out a fire if needed. I have to make sure that my troops and my marches do not get out of their buildings. I try to heal as much infantry as possible just to increase the number of troops in my settlement, because I'm quite worried about the incoming rally. Now looking at the time, there's about 10 minutes left, and I really want to go out and start burning settlements, but right now I think that's still enough time for them to catch up if we are not careful, so we have to maintain the momentum. 5 minutes would be more preferable in terms of just letting loose, so we'll see what happens. Aside from that one rally headed towards me, I was wondering where the other enemies are, and it looks like they are gathering around the dev compound, and it looks like they're starting their settlement attacks. They might be thinking that there's not enough time to catch up in terms of points, so all they can do right now is to just let loose and gather as much troop kill points as possible. So the rally towards my settlement is about to land. A few more seconds left, and as expected, it burnt, so I didn't have enough defense. And by now they're starting to port in near my settlement to start burning. I don't think they can take me on one-on-one yet. I still have enough troops for that. But as long as I do not have any of my stronger heroes, I would be suffering lots of losses. All they have to do is to gang up and keep hitting me, which they are doing now. And as you can see, I'm burning. So I thought that maybe I could just start burning now. I use an advanced relo so all of my troops would come back and I could do my own hitting. At this point I was just letting loose, using my attacks without care. I keep sending them over and over until the enemies start burning. It's the last few minutes of the raid and I no longer had to care about my troops. So let's zip through the rest of the footage and get to the victory screen.